your time and interest. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Friends, after that splendid presentation by Dr. Smita Kole, we move on and we bring in a doyen of endodontics. This is Dr. Ajay Bajaj. Do I actually need to introduce him? I don't think so, because anybody who has any interest in endodontics, or even if he is not interested in endodontics, who is wanting to know how to go about conducting a live procedure, would know Ajay Bajaj, a graduate of Government Dental College and Hospital, Mumbai, postgraduate of GDC Mumbai. He is a man who believed in simplifying endodontic procedures for the clinician. He went ahead and introduced a sequence of files which was very easy to use. He went ahead and shared a single sitting endodontic procedure. He not only stopped at lectures, he went ahead and even shared live procedures. And he's one man who thinks on his feet, because I was present at a couple of live procedures. And as you all know, anything can go wrong in a live procedure. And here at Ahmedabad, the powers went off and he wouldn't come back for some time. He said, no problem, I'll continue with the procedure. He recorded it on his phone, later on shared that. I still remember that. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting to you the wonder endodontist, Dr. Ajay Bajaj. Welcome, Ajay. Take it away.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Wonder endodontist, I don't know. I'm still learning. A lot of things to learn in life. So, sir, this is the first time, I will say, this is my 61st live procedure, I suppose. And this is the first time I'm kind of relaxed. First time after so many procedures. Because we realized during the pre-preparations which we were doing, that time we realized that if I have to connect my microscope camera to Zoom and then go live here in the procedure, it can be a little risky. If there is any drop in connection or something like that, we can have issues. So we decided to record it and then show it to you. So I have recorded my case already, and this was a fresh recording just done 3-4 days ago, and just a while ago. And I will go through the presentation will go this way. I will go through slides first. I will show what I'm going to talk about, and then we will proceed with the case. And I will show you how I've done this root canal in detail, what challenges I faced. I usually don't select too complicated cases, but there is always something interesting in each and every case. So thank you, FamDent, for this opportunity as always. And I think you are the master in live procedures. You are the one who really encouraged us to get into live procedures very regularly. So I'll start with my presentation. Okay, here we go. So single visit endodontics live with a difference. We just recorded it, and this is where we are going with it. So criteria for success, very simple criteria which we see, and criteria for failure, which can also be vice versa. So criteria for success of any treatment is basically affected to symptomatic and functional. Soft tissue around is normal, and normal lamina dura on the radiograph. That means the case is successful, and criteria for failure are going to be reversed. That is, the treated tooth is going to be symptomatic. The lesion is same in size on radiograph, or it is not healing completely. The lesion which was not there before appears subsequent to the treatment, or the pre-existing lesion increases in size or stays the same in size. That simply means the case is failing, right? So what do we have today for the treatment? Okay, so this is the case which I have. Patient came with a class 1 cavity, a deep class 1 cavity in maxillary first molar. He couldn't sleep the whole night, acute pulpitis. You will see the case live in some time, meaning the video in some time. Medical history not contributory. Dental history, he had done a filling in this a while ago, and then a couple of other fillings in the mouth. Signs and symptoms that I told you, he couldn't sleep the whole night. Before that, anything that cold that he takes gives him sensitivity. And this is a radiograph we have. If you see the palatal root, a slightly curved mesial root, and a distal one. Okay, so this is how we have cavity. It's pretty deep. It is approaching the pulp chamber. You can clearly see it over here. Okay, so diagnosis and treatment planning. Diagnosis is basically acute pulpitis. Treatment planning, we are going to do root canal treatment for him. Pulpectomy followed by root canal. We will give a local anesthesia, do access cavity preparation, and occlusal reduction. Sometimes I do it in the beginning if I don't have good occlusal reference points, or I can do it at the end of the treatment. Or if I'm going to do, say for example, in this case, I can definitely consider doing only filling, and I may not go for the crown if the cavity is pretty restricted. If I have thickness of dentin all around of around at least 2.5-3 millimeters, then I may not go for crown. Okay, so in that case, I will not go for crown reduction, right? So we will locate for the orifice. We'll do cleaning, shaping, and then of course the irrigation protocol I'm going to discuss in detail, and intercanal medicament. In this case, it is going to be single sitting endo, so we are not going to use any intercanal medicaments. Okay, so drying of the canal, we select for the sealer, and we do obturation and post-RC filling. Okay, for those who know me, those who have heard me, for my anesthesia, this is my favorite gun, local anesthesia boosting gun. And what is the advantage with this? You use cartridge, you use 30 gauge 1-inch needle. So it's a painless anesthesia anyways. Then the speed is controlled and it is constant. So whatever anesthetic solution you are getting, it is a very slow speed. In maxillary anesthesia, patient hardly comes to know that patient has been injected. He tactically says, doctor, I did not feel anything, okay, except for the anesthesia, which is on palatal, which is still a painless anesthesia. And mandibular anesthesia also you can be done with this. Then the file system which we are going to use is either 2Shape or the Hero Gold. The sequence of the instrumentation I will describe to you in detail. I use K-file handpieces, that is K400 or M400, and that is how to use this handpiece I will show you. This is basically a reciprocating handpiece. And why do you need it? Because we all do hand instrumentation. We use instrument with hand, and sometimes it can be really, really difficult for us to work only with hand, especially if the mouth opening is restricted, reaching there is difficult. Life of the K-file is actually increased when we use these type of handpieces. Chances of breakage of files are reduced by 4 times. K-files are reduced by 4 times when you use K-file handpiece. So first negotiation of the canal reaching to apex is essentially by K-file 10 number or so by hand. After that, once you reach the apex, then you can use K400 handpiece. Okay, it is a reciprocating handpiece, so it has got 30-degree reciprocation on each side. Okay, so you can see it, and the speed I normally use it at around 2,000 to 3,000 RPM. It's pretty safe, nothing to worry. Okay, so if the canal is curved already, we can pre-curve the file and we can go inside, and with that pre-curved file, and we can move it inside and use it. There's absolutely no problem. Okay. So I'm going to use one flare file for coronal third preparation. The benefits, it eliminates the interferences at the root canal entrance, and it is pretty safe to enter. Okay, so it's a 1 mm thickness wire. The blade is 17 mm. The actual length of the instrument is 13 mm, and actual length of the instrument is 17 mm. Shaft is 11 mm. Active blade length is 8 mm. Okay, so interesting instrument it is. The tip size is 25.9%. That means that at every millimeter, the diameter changes by 0.09 millimeter. Okay, so when it reaches to 8 millimeter, it is almost 1 millimeter already. As I told you, it is 1 millimeter wire. Okay, so this is, so that simply means that taper over here is going to be 0. And then why do we have a 0 taper? It's basically, it's good to have blades here. Then we will be able to, the flexibility of the instrument is maintained, because this is going to be less flexible. This is more metal. However, this is going to be less, this is more going to be more flexible because there's going to be less metal over here. Okay. So we use 1 flare. 1G is optional. What 1G is, I will tell you in some time again. And any rotary system that you like. Okay, 1G is basically 20, it's 14 numbers, 3-degree taper file. Okay, fantastic file to prepare the canals. Very, very safe to prepare with this variable pitch. And if you see over here, this is how it moves inside the canal, and it helps us in eliminating the calcifications, and we can easily repair the canal further. Okay, brooches are my favorite. I have always loved them, and I'm going to use brooches in this case, and you will see how effectively I remove the pud tissue, and it makes my life super simple. Okay, Hero Shipper Gold is something which I'm going to use over here in this case. So as you all know about Hero Shipper, it's a very old file system. It was launched way back in 2001. Okay, positive rake angle file. So positive cutting angle file. A simple example of positive rake angle file is H file. H files are positive cutting files. So positive rake angle, and the K files or reamers are negative rake angle files, right? So the inner core is bigger. So that's why it gives you excellent resistance to breakage, and it has got triple helix design. Okay, so the tip is inactive as always, and anti-breakage control, which is a patented technology with this. So what has changed in this? This file, Hero Shipper files are allowed to be used in circumferential filing motion. So that's why they are ideal to prepare non-circular canals. And we're going to see some of the non-circular canals being prepared over here. Okay, so they are available in Hero Shipper are available in 36%. Black rubber stopper indicates it is 6%, 34%, 25.6%, 25.4%, 26%, and 24%. Usually my favorite are 25.4% and 25.6%. These are the two files, and you hardly require anything after this. In most of the cases, these two instruments are more than enough to repair the canal. Unless you're working on anterior tooth and the canals are wider, then you will probably require 30, or in calcified canal cases, you will start with 26%, 24%, and then you can go to 25, 4 and 6. Okay, so this is my usually a favorite one. Hero Gold, what is gold about it? So it's basically heat treated file, because of it's the same features are the same, but it is heat treated, so it is got 200% more resistance to breakage, and it is super flexible. It's a super popular file right now, and it's the same file which we are going to use. I will be using electronic apex locator, that is iRoot. Those who know me, I have been using this apex locator since 2004. Extremely accurate, the same machine I have been using since 2004. Okay, whenever you are using apex locator, check for the electrical connections. If they are loose, if there is any corrosion, beware of cervical leakages. I will tell you what it is. And the pud chamber should be dry, canal should be wet, and file should be snugly fitting into the canal. How do we do that? I will show you again in the case. So beware of the high readings, and it is not used to be in open apex cases. Okay, so how do we use it? We always put the file and the file holder and the lip hook on the opposite side. They should not touch each other. If they touch each other, there is going to be short circuit, and we will not get correct results. All we want is excellent correct result in this case. Okay, and then we start seeing reading. As we start pushing the file down, reading drops down to 0.5, and it starts blinking apex over here. Have we reached the apex? No, we have not reached the apex. We'll continue. We go to 0. Have we reached the apex? No, we have not reached the apex. So what do? We keep going down, and we pull the file out again. Okay, and we come back to 0.5. And have we reached the apex? Yes, now we have reached the apex. Why did we do this? We basically did because we wanted to do apical patency filing. So always remember, whenever we are using rotary instruments or K-files or whatever, we create debris, and that can pack at the apical end, apical foramen, and that can lead to issues in the reading. So it is always better to reach to 0 and then come back to 0.5, and that's going to be correct reading. If we go beyond apex, the reading will be minus. Okay. Let's inject if I'm going to have any calcium hydroxide basing or other things. For my irrigation, my main friend is going to be Endo Ultra, which is basically cordless, world's first cordless ultrasonic device. That this is the tip which we have. Okay. And the tip has got 3 length markings at 16, 17, 18. It is 20 number 2% 2% taper tip. The machine has got LED. Okay. And then there is battery indicator, which is given over here. It is LED light over here. All you have to do is on off. That's it. There's practically no learning curve. So sometimes we violate apices. This was a case which was referred to me many years ago. And I have put this case on YouTube. Do we want to have this kind of accident? Somebody really entered and went beyond apex, and we do not want to have this kind of accident. So what do? We should use ideally an endomotor with apex locator. That's going to be an ideal scenario in our clinic. So this can be either with the cord or the cordless. If I have it with the cord, this is how it looks. This is the endomotor. This is the apex locator. They can be used together. They can be separate. Okay. Here the body is made in plastic, so no issues. There is plastic coating. So whether you use rubber dam or no, it doesn't matter. Of course, for me, rubber dam is going to be mandatory. Or if you want to use cordless one, then we have something called Endomatic. Okay, and so what it is. This is how the handpiece is. This is the plastic body which you have. It has got endometer plus apex locator both. This is the plastic coating you have. So it does not really matter if it touches your cheek or lip. This is the apex locator clip which is inbuilt inside. You don't really have to do anything. All you have to put it inside and start looking for the readings. These kind of motors always give you a lot of advantages. Another variation of this is Motopex. So either you can have Motopex, Endomatic, or MM control, whatever you like to. Okay, so the advantages is it has got auto start on, auto stop on, and as it reaches in apical last 2 millimeters, see this is started, auto start on its own. Okay, as it reaches to the apex, the file goes slow. Okay, you can see that the file is slightly coming out of it, right? And auto reverse. The moment it crosses the apex, it goes auto reverse. There's another very important feature which we have in integrated apex locator and endomotor both together is ATR, that is adaptive torque reverse function. Try to understand this. And this is nothing but combining continuous forward rotation and reciprocating motion. We all like reciprocating motion, right? So, but it comes with disadvantages. So you remove disadvantages and you use the advantages of it. And how do we do that? So in continuous forward rotation normally, this is how the file will rotate over here. But when the load on the file exceeds the torque limit, okay, so I have set some torque, say 1.5 Newton centimeter square. So if it exceeds, then the file will automatically start going alternate between 180 and 90-degree reverse rotations. Or meaning you can choose the reverse rotation angulation the way you want. Okay, so that is how it is. So you can see it over here in a small video. Okay, now the file enters inside and it meets the resistance because we give a lot of pressure, and you can see the file is going, okay, in auto reverse motion. Okay, and for obturation, I'm going to use EQV along with Cerasil sealer. Okay, so in which I'm going to use that going to be 2 units, pack and fill. So this is the pack unit, which is basically a heating tip. This is the area where you press with your finger and you create the heat. The heat is basically created over here at the tip, and it takes only fraction of a second for you to get this portion hot. The temperature immediately reaches to 180 degree or 230 degree, depending upon what we choose. Okay, and then we have a fill unit. Fill unit has got a space over here through which we put a GP stick inside, which goes inside over here. There's a heating tank. There's a piston. With the piston, we push the GP stick inside. We bend this tip, okay, and we can actually inject the molted GP point inside the canals. Okay, so we have hand pluggers which can be used. We can recheck the fit, and it should be reached at least 4 or 5 millimeters short of the apex. Then we check the master cone, coat the master cone with sealer, put it inside, and use the down pack unit. With down pack unit, I'm going to keep only the last 5 millimeters of GP point, and I'm going to remove all other GP points out. Okay, so with down pack unit, this is the unit which I use, and I create a heat and go and pack it inside. However, in today's procedure, I'm not going to do it this way. I'm going to use Cerasil, which is a bioceramic sealer, and with bioceramic sealer, you need not remove this. Bioceramic sealers are actually fillers. So you require GP point over there only for the sake of retreatment. If required in future, you should have some soft core. Otherwise, you do not require anything. So you simply go and inject the sealer. It's a preloaded syringe, which is injectable syringe. You simply go and inject the sealer in the canal, and you take a GP point and single cone obturation. You just put one GP inside and single cone obturation. That is what we all achieve. Okay, so this is the case which we have, and I will now start with my video of the case. It will take us around 25 minutes more to see the video, and then we will decide where we'll take question answers. So I edit my own videos. Usually a video of this type is around a minute long. Okay, sir, is my screen seen over here? Is the video seen?
Are you playing it now? Are you playing it?
Hello?
Are you playing it now?
Yeah.
It is not moving.
No, it is not moving, but the video is seen, right?
The screen right now, I can see the.
You can see a rubber dam applied tooth, right?
No.
Then
I'm seeing a radiograph.
Okay, so fine.
Yeah, now start playing it.
Is it seen now?
It is seen now.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what the case is. I'll start playing the video from the beginning. So this is what the X-ray was. Okay. And we have a nice class 1 cavity. These are one of the good cases to show you live. So we do access cavity preparation. I just take a drop. I just take a dip inside the chamber, and then I can use that. I just took a, if you have realized, I just took a, I just took a drop inside the chamber, and there was a pinpoint hole through which I'm going to inject intrapulpal so that patient does not have any pain. Okay, so intrapulpal injection achieved through this small pinpoint hole which we have created. And now we will start doing de-roofing, and we will remove all the soft caries, decays slowly. So this is where I have injected, and now I started removing decay. Okay, I usually will direct my bird towards the largest canal, that is palatal canal, and then slowly I will start modifying the cavity. And then we gone are those days when we used to say that we should preserve the oblique ridge and all. There's nothing like that. There's no need to really think about oblique ridge, because anyway, if somebody is going to go for crown cutting, he's anyways going to remove that oblique much. So you don't really think about it. And I just did some of the de-roofing over there, and you can see after de-roofing, you can see that there is some pulp tissue seen over there. Just washing it off so that it will be seen better. Right? So you can see the pulp tissue inside, and it was pretty inflamed, and it's bleeding immediately. We can easily make that out. Okay, so we control the bleeding. It doesn't take really long to control. And we will now try to remove the tissue in toto. That is usually my motto. I usually try to remove all the tissue in toto. I usually don't like to just leave it just like that, because if you remove in toto, remove in bulk, especially from each canal, then things become really, really simple. Like for example, if I could remove the tissue from palatal canal in bulk, in toto, I really don't have much to dissolve over there, except for the tissue shreds and whatever is there in lateral canal. So the bleeding controlled, and we can see the tissue over here. Now I can simply go and remove it with simple probe or endodontic explorer, or if it does not come out with that, then I can use a simple barb broach. So I'm trying it with endodontic explorer if I can bring it out. And many of the times it just comes out with that. You don't really require anything. Okay. I realize, okay, it is attached and it is coming from inside. So I take a barb broach. Okay. And I will just put it in the palatal canal, the largest canal first. Don't engage it around the walls, just engage it around the pulp. The file should be loose. Just give a twist. Because it is a barb broach, it has got those barbs, they will get entangled into it, and we can easily remove the tissue out. And this is not by fluke. This happens in almost each and every case in my clinic. Okay, especially the larger canals. Always give me an anterior tooth. Okay, and I will be able to remove tissue in toto in 100% cases. Give me a posterior tooth, and in palatal canal or in other canals, I will be able to remove anyways very tissue very well. Okay, so this is where the tissue comes out, and it's beautiful to see this because the bulk of it, including the tissue in the pulp chamber, which has now come out, right? And you can clearly see that it is entangled in the barb brooches, right? So same tissue out, which has just come out. Now let's start checking for the canal. This was the palatal canal, all empty now. There are some tissue sheds left over here in the corner, which we remove. And now we go to the mesial canal, mesiobuccal canal. So we have mesiobuccal, ischiobuccal, and palatal. So now we start filing at each and every canals. We try to reach to the. Now I will pick up my one flare. With one flare, I'm doing coronal third preparation. So you can clearly see that the coronal third, I'm removing the tissue, I'm removing the tissue from inside, and I'm creating a nice straight line access to the canal system. Okay. In palatal, there is hardly anything to prepare actually. The tissue was pretty inflamed, so there is going to be bleeding frequently. I use safe-ended needle, okay, single vent safe-ended needle. You can see a single vent over there, and irrigation is something which is compulsory after every file. In fact, after every instrument, irrigate, recapitulate, irrigate. That is what we have. We can see all three canals, right? But we know in about 80 to 90% of the cases we have MB2. So if I don't have MB2, that's a news for me. So I'm going to search for MB2. Simple, again, I could see some small pulse stone over there, and that simply can be removed. It's this kind of small pulse stone can simply be removed with endodontic explorer. So I'm using endodontic explorer here, and a small portion of pulse stone, if you could see, just flew out. Some of this the pieces have flown. You can see one piece over here on the wall, and some of them are on my mirror. And now I take a 10 number K file and I'm trying to negotiate. Now I could have used a little harder file like C file over here, because this file was having some buckling, okay, but that's okay. A little harder file would have been a better idea in this case. Okay, so this is where I get it, and I start negotiating. I prepare it with, again, my endo flare and one flare, and then I will use apex locator. So how do I prepare actually? Continue negotiating further. The canals are so close over here that they may fuse with each other. We know that, okay? If they're so close, MB1 and MB2 can meet with each other, they can fuse with each other, and that is probably going to happen over here. Okay, so this was MB2, which I tried to prepare the orifice, irrigate the whole main canal and this canal. The rubber dab clamp, which you can see, is a K clamp, my favorite clamps. Very stable clamps and very durable too. Take a 10 number K file and try to enter inside. Okay, there is a lot of resistance to 10 number K file. Negotiate. Now you can see I am in MB2. The main MB was a different canal, and I am in MB2. But both canals are very close to each other. I will be happy if they fuse together. That it will be a non-circular canal, that's okay. My obturation technique is anyways 3D obturation, so it does not matter. Okay, so a lot of debris coming out, you can clearly see that. Irrigate. Irrigation is the key. And what I'm using it here for irrigation is 5.25% sodium hypochlorite. So sodium hypochlorite is our irrigant, main irrigant. Okay, and that is what we are going to use. There's still some bleeding happening from palatal canal. That happens especially when the pulp tissue is pretty big, you can have. And once I put sodium hypochlorite, and you can see a nice effervescence coming, or we call it champagne test, and you can see the whirlpools which have formed and how the tissue is being dissolved. The whatever organic tissue is there is dissolving, and these particles which are floating over there. Okay. Now I am going to pick up my Hero Gold file. As you can see it over here, this is my Hero Gold file, and with Hero Gold, I'm going to a very nice electro-polished shiny file, you can see, right? And with which I will start preparing the canals. Okay, very easy, extremely durable. I really don't have to worry. I can actually give a little bit of pressure, and I don't worry about any issues. This is 25 number 6%. I've still not this thing. I will not be reaching to the apex with this 25 number 6% file. I will take to middle to third approximately. Then check the length with apex locator, and then go to the apex with 25.4. And then I can come back to 25.6%. This is how I usually will prepare. Okay, so you can see MB1 and MB2, and both of them are almost fused together. Confirm the length with the apex locator. Okay, so put this thing, and you start going, and you start pushing it slowly inside. Okay, once this is done, then I pick up my K400 handpiece, and the file which I have used over here is 12 number K file, because the 10 number K file went with a great difficulty. So my preference is going to be 12 number K file. And why 12 number K file? Because when we go from 10 number to 15 number, there is a difference of diameter by 50%. We jump in diameter by 50%, and that's a massive change. And there where we create issues, we create problems, we break the files and other things. Okay, I do not want to have that issue. So I'm going to use one file in between, and that's how I usually work. I use 10 number file, 12 number file, and then 15 number file. And that is something which is compulsory in my clinic. Okay. Once that is done, now I go with a 50 number K file. I do not really have to do hand instrumentation. Put it in K400 K file handpiece and just go few picks inside and the canal is prepared. It is at a very, very fast speed. I use it at around 2000 to 3000 RPM speed. 3000 is something my favorite speed. So you use it only on a normal quadrangle handpiece, put it on quadrangle handpiece and simply keep it at a lower speed and start using it. It is 1:10 and gear reduction handpiece. So it reduces speed by 10 times. Okay. So again, same irrigate. Now I'm going to go with a 4% file. And which 4% file? I will try and reach to the apex. We know where the apex is, and this route will try to reach to the apex. We are entering inside. The canals are long, almost 20 mm is the length in mesiobuccal. Correct? Now, if you can clearly see, I'm going into MB2, and after going into MB1 and MB2 both joining together, there must be some tissue inside. So there's slight amount of bleeding, which we can see coming from MB2. Now go in distobuccal canal. Preparing distobuccal canal, the way you see, I don't just push the file to the apex in one go. You go slowly with few pecks, okay? And once you're confident that you've reached the apex and your rotary cement has gone a bit looser, then you start doing circumferential filing. You can see the debris coming out over here at the orifice. These micro-mega files always pick up the debris at the orifice. So cleaning becomes simpler. Palatal canal was relatively larger, so there's nothing much to do, but you can see that I'm going in circumferential filing. I was moving in different direction in different strokes. Okay, again the same safe ended needle. You can see it is. You can see a notch over there, and again remove all the debris. Sodium hypochlorite is something which is being used. That's why you could see that the color of the blood changed to it changing immediately because it reacts and it turns brown. Reacts with sodium hypochlorite and it turns brown. Correct? This is MB2, which has been cleaned and cleared. Okay, so my canals, now I will go back with 25 number 6% again, because now I'm preparing my canal from 6%, 4% to 6%. Okay, so all my canals will be prepared at 25 number 6%. So that is what all I required is two files, 25.4 and 25.6. Started with 25.6% and then went with 25.4% till the apex and came back to 25.6%. Okay, mesiobuccal, now the distobuccal, and you can see the debris coming out. As you cut, the debris comes out. So much of debris at the orifice, and that's so much unique with micro-mega files. Whichever micro-mega files you are using, you will always find this feature, which is common, and there is always uplifting of the debris. Okay, now this is non-circular canal. I'm going in circumferential filing and clearing the canal completely. Cool. Okay, right? I usually will like sodium hypochlorite in the canals while I'm working, and I can have apex orbiter mode going on. Now I'm going to do a master cone check. Okay. So put master cones. Am I close to the obtrusion? No. There's something interesting which is going to happen now. And put all three master cones. All three are 25.6% GP points. Check the feet. Fitting is good. Okay. Checked it on the master cone X-ray. Palatal was 1.5 mm excess. I had to cut the tip. Now, my important part of the irrigation protocol starts. I'm heating sodium hypochlorite with my EQV pack gun. Okay, so I'm heating sodium hypochlorite in each and every canal. Okay, so about 3-4 seconds in each and every canal, which is bringing it close to the boiling point, and you can see nice effervescence coming out, right? Okay, now I take my Endo Ultra and I'm going to activate this solution. Okay, you can clearly see I want to remove all, I want to dissolve all the tissues. I want to kill all the bacteria. I create the turbulence inside. Okay, and I can clearly see the imploding that is happening over here. Okay, so now this stomacal canal, and then the palatal canal. About 15-20 seconds in each canal. And I will repeat this cycle 3 times. So load sodium hypochlorite solution, heat, okay, with EQV, right? Close sodium hypochlorite to boiling point and activate it with Endo Ultra. And then finally, distilled water irrigation. So at the end of the cycle, distilled water irrigation. So this is one cycle which has been done. Second cycle, third cycle. I will be doing it 3 times. And you can see some minor debris which were there, which is coming out. Canals are being cleared. So I'm not going to show you all 3 cycles because it can be a little boring for you. But there's something interesting that happens over here. Okay. And that is, I have cleared everything. And after clearing everything, I realized, oh, there is something, okay, at this stage I realized that I have got MB1, MB2, okay, and MB1, MB2 which are fusing together. Then I have got palatal canal, then I have got distomacal canal, but I could find something, I could find after clearing everything, I could find some extension of the distomacal canal, okay. And I will give you a simple example. I was doing live procedure in Delhi, in Family Show again. This was many years ago, I think 6-7 years ago. And Family Show stopped in Delhi a long time ago. And we found 5 canals over there. MB1, MB2, distomacal, distolingual, and palatal. A similar case like that. I started with this. At the end of it, I realized, okay, there is some area where I can put. Now, actually, all my irrigation cycles were over. Right? I was ready for obtrusion, just dye the canal and obtrude. And at this stage, I felt, oh, I get a catch. My file goes, and there is something which is DB2 or distolingual canal. Oh my God. But anyways, good that I found it. That is the advantage of microscope, and that is the advantage of being vigilant. And you can clearly see that the file is going separately inside. Of course, most of the times distomacal second canal which you get, or distolingual canal it is called, then whenever you get it, usually will fuse with main distomacal canal. So I'm going to check over here. It is, see, the 10 number file is going with the resistance. So I'm going to follow the same protocol over here. I'm not going to show you everything because it may be a little boring, but I'm going to follow the same protocol. 10 number file, 12 number file, 15 number file with K400 handpiece. I am checking my length, working length of this canal. Who knows, it can be a separate canal, right? So I'm checking it on the apex locator. Once that is done, 10 number, 12 number, 15 number, now I'm going to go with my rotary instrument and see it's a separate canal which is being prepared. Of course, it may fuse with the main canal, but look at the debris which is coming out over there. Okay, there's so much of debris which has been picked out. Okay, so as we start preparing the canal, right? So irrigate, check. So this is into distolingual canal or DB2. I hope you all are enjoying the case. Nothing really big about it. There's nothing really a different case, but there's always, one has to be vigilant so that we can get this kind of extra canals or whatever. Okay. Now I'm going to prepare 25 number 4%, and I'm reaching to the full length, to the apex, only to realize that both these canals are meeting each other, fusing with each other. That makes it non-circular canal. Okay. You can now see the thin plate which was there between these two is broken, it's lost. But the canal becomes elliptical. There were two circular canals, now it becomes one single elliptical canal, right? Again, same irrigation protocol, same, everything going to be same. I will in fact, because there was so much of debris inside, although this canal will have 3 cycles of irrigation, our irrigation protocol, there's going to be heating of the sodium hypochlorite and there's going to be activation with Endo Ultra. Other canals, I will still do one more because there probably some debris must have gone inside. So it is always safe to do if you have stopped the procedure. So once all that is done, I still have not shown you irrigation after every file. I still cut down on it quite a lot because it is important for me. And now this is what I have used, is liquid EDTA. Now at the end of it, I'm going to use liquid EDTA. So to remove inorganic material, okay, and open up the dentinal tubules, lateral canals well. Okay, so this is being activated with Endo Ultra. I'm activating liquid EDTA right now. Okay, I will again irrigate with the sodium hypochlorite once quickly to neutralize liquid EDTA, and then with distilled water. And now my canals are ready for the obturation. You can see a nice non-circular preparation in both mesiobuccal and distobuccal canal. And this is my palatal canal, right? You can see a very nice, not a millimeter of any excess cutting anywhere. The preparations have been, the non-circular preparations, the shape has been maintained the way it is. Now, what am I doing? I am not obturating, sorry, I'm not irrigating. I use the same irrigation needle. I put it in the canal, okay, and I suck out the excess fluid of all the canals. So by doing this, canals go a bit drier, okay, so excess fluid has been removed, and this helps me in reducing usage of paper points, okay, because we require a lot of paper points. If I do this, the paper points requirement goes down by 50%. Okay, so fluid removed from 2 canals, and now I'm going to remove it from palatal canal. So I'm sucking it out. I'm sucking it out. Okay, so all canals are empty of fluids. They may be moist. So all I have to do is just dry the canals. So I'm going to use paper points. They can sometimes be bleeding spots, which is important for me to know, as you can see it over here. And that should not be there. We should find out why it is. Was I going beyond apex or something like that? Whenever I dry, this should not be. But this thing has to be completely dry. If it is not dry, then there is an issue. Okay. So the canals are dry, now ready to obturate. Fine. And now I'm going to use my bioceramic sealer, which is injectable, ready injectable sealer. Extremely good consistency. You don't find this kind of consistency in any other sealer. Okay, and you get a nice 3D feel. You can see that elliptical filling of the canal. Same goes in the distobuccal canal, and now I'm going to put it in the palatal canal. Okay. One could can be an obturation. Yes, this can be actually a final obturation, but we will still put GP point inside. Why do we do that? Because GP points are softer core. If I have to remove, for some reason, if I have to remove the core, I can still use. And as you see, I pump. I just don't put the GP point inside. I pump and push it inside. And it's going to be now the distobuccal canal. Okay, and now the palatal one. A lot of people prefer to obturate all canals separate, which is absolutely fine. I somehow am comfortable to do all three GP points together. But if you want to do them separately, it is absolutely fine. So I just removed excess from palatal. Now you can actually cut these GPs at the tip, and then you can go, and I am removing. Now I'm using EQV pack unit to melt and remove the GP point at the orifice, okay, right at the orifice. This is hot modified technique which I'm using over here. I'm just melting GP point right at the tip, okay, and removing this excess, and I'm just going to do vertical compaction, vertical condensation, which I'm going to do, okay, to achieve a nice perfect seal, coronal seal, okay, and my obturation is done over here. It becomes so simple. And obturation takes all it takes in obturation is 5 minutes. 5 minutes is the time. And you can see that this is a non-circular canal which has been filled very well. And this is the case after post-obturation. Okay. So again, all three non-circular preparations you can clearly see. And nice obturation which you can see over here. I will just show you the complete fit. Okay, you can clearly see the apical fit of all the canals, and the case is obturated. Now, if you remember, this had MB1, MB2 which fused together. This has had distobuccal and distobuccal 2 or distolingual which are fused together, and this was the palatal 2. This is where we removed our pulp tissue. We pulled the whole pulp tissue out. Okay, the access cavity preparation has been extremely limited, not a millimeter of any excess cutting. Whatever decay was there, I have removed. I have preserved good amount of denting all over. Okay, do I really require the crown in this? No, I don't. So I did not do occlusal reduction in this case. But I did tell my patients, if I do occlusal reduction, patients are usually happy because the pain experience is minimum. But whenever there is occlusal reduction not done, whenever patient touches the teeth together, there can be pain. So we just have to explain them that we are saving on the crown, but in effect, you will have to tolerate me for this. That in this case, I cannot reduce the height. So whenever you touch your teeth together, there can be some pain. Okay, avoid eating on this side for next few days and you will settle down. I'm sure I'm happy that you enjoyed this. I wish I could show you actually live, but it's still, I mean, I have done it more than 60 times. We have done every damn possible thing. We have done broken instrument cases, we have done retreatment cases, we have managed n number of challenges, removed pulp stone, found out extra canals, what not we have done. Okay, so 60 is a big number, and so this time personally I felt okay, because we are on digital platform, and if something goes wrong, the whole that 1.5 hours which has been given to me should not suffer. So we recorded the case, and I'm showing it to you, and I think you have liked it, and I'm open for the questions, sir. I'll stop sharing the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Ajay. Thank you so much. Like always, very, very lucid and clear. What we need to now get on to is question answers, and quite a few people present in the room. On last count, we had somewhere around 850 and spread across the country. So that's a good number. You know, I'm sure that no hall we could hold so many people in the past.
I'm told I have got, meaning some of my friends from other countries also have enrolled for this conference, and I know people at least from 6-7 countries who have enrolled. So okay, I'm so happy that we have international representation for this.
Okay, let me take a few questions, and I'm glad that you finished in good time. So we have quite a few.
First time.
This one time I didn't have to say, Ajay, 5 minutes to go. Yeah. The first thing is they want to know, if you extirpated the pulp very efficiently, as any endodontist would do, but if it does not come out with a brooch, can you
Yes.
suggest some alternate methods and
Yes,
tricks?
so it's a very good question. So I usually slightly pre-curve, not a sharp curvature, but a bend. Then the curvature, I will say a bend, which I will give in my approach, and then I will put it inside. It has to be loose, and then I rotate it. Okay, and when I rotate it, and then pull out. Because brooches have those extension, it is very easy to pull out something with the brooch. Those barbs will take this thing out. If that does not happen, I can use an H file in the same manner. Okay. If the pulp tissue is pretty big and it is not coming out, there's something called braided file technique where you can put 2 or 3 new H files together. Okay. And you rotate them together and pull out. But idea is to remove the pulp tissue in toto. Now, suppose I have a bottle in which there is a gel which has been filled and I want to remove the gel. One of the ways is to pull that gel out with some hook, like a brooch or something. And second way is to put a liquid like sodium hypochlorite and keep dissolving it. Okay. Of course, we use rotary instrument. With rotary instruments, many times this comes out very easily. Okay. But if it does not come out, if we have any issues, we should have other things in our hands. So brooch, H files, or the rotary instruments. These are the 3 things which I use to take out. Sometimes the pulp tissue is so loose, you can even take it out with a 10 number K file.
Okay, now, in our country, at least probably from my generation, the word disposable never existed. Okay, we kept reusing the brooch or the file. I'm sure you have a protocol of the number of usages per brooch. Can you sort of educate us on the?
Yes, a very important question. If you, I don't know if you have noticed, my K file was showing some sign of wear and tear. Okay, so usually my K files are 10 number K files are disposable. So I use them and throw them. If the canal is calcified narrow, I may require 2, 3, 4, 5 K files. There cannot be any limit. Okay, the rotary instruments which I'm going to use in our country, we still know that now Western countries, the packaging which is provided to you is a pre-sterile package. You pick it up, take it, use it. Nowadays, we have single file system, so it is easy. You have a complete procedure pack, say 1 flare, 1 curve, 10 number, 15 number K file, 1G, everything which is pre-sterile, use it and throw it off. But in our case, we have to reuse it. Now, again, this question comes again and again, that how many times can I use it? I usually answer it, it depends upon the complexity of the case. So file cannot be, you cannot define the life of the file. Sometimes if the case is super complicated with too many curvatures and a narrow canal, I may require 2 sets of files. Otherwise, usually a file like Hero Gold, which I use, can easily be used for 10 to 12 canals. Those 2 files can be used for 10 to 12 canals. In routine case, the way I have used, this can usually be used to 10 to 12 canals. So that goes to around 4 teeth or 5 teeth. Okay.
Now, coming back to the brooch, now we know that the tissue gets entangled in the brooch. So would you say brooch is a single use?
Ideally, it should be single use and they're cheap also. But sir, we put them in enzyme solution to remove this thing. And then we put, meaning if I'm putting brooches in ultrasonic bath, I do not put anything around because that is an aggressive cutting instrument. If that brooch and a file, if they are together and if they are, it can cut the file. There can be a dent on the file. So I put brooches, clean them, and I use them. But I change brooches often. Again, I will say, ideally they should be disposable, but they are not.
Okay, so have they been, we know that the file gets separated for what we know as broken instrument. What about a brooch? What are the chances of a brooch getting separated? And does it cause problems in your in your extirpation and biomax?
That's a very good question. Usually brooch does not break. As I said, it has to be loose. If it is loose inside, there is no reason for it to break. Okay. But what happens exactly is the barbs of the brooches, the barbs which are there, okay, those pointed ends which are there, they can break. Okay, there's some cheap brooches which are available in the market. They're so cheap, and you use them under the microscope, and you see after 2-3 canals, you take them out, and some of those ends have been lost inside. Okay, usually these bars which comes out do not lead to any problem. They come out with the normal irrigation. So brooches breakage is a very rare thing. Otherwise, it is solid one wire. So I don't really think we have any issue. Especially like any other instrument, you should be checking brooches under magnification frequently. And if you find that some of those barbs are going, you should throw it off. Don't wait for it to break. It should be loose in the canal, so you will not break. Unless you engage, you will not.
That's the key, correct. So now let's move on from the extirpation to the chemicals. Okay. Now a question that has come up is, if we don't use, and this is very interesting, if we don't use rubber dams, so let me stop that question there and ask you that, would you recommend clinicians doing root canals without rubber dam? And is it practical?
Sir, the world over, there is a statement, no rubber dam, no endodontics. There is, meaning if I don't use a helmet, can I drive? If I don't put my seat belt, can I drive? So meaning nobody is going to tell you, okay, it's not that you can't do it. People have been doing it. But at one risky day, one risky moment, and you had it. And apart from that, when I'm using, how do we use? Meaning a simple example. If there is rubber dam, everything is covered. In the era of COVID, it is all the more important for us to use rubber dam. It is just that tooth which is exposed right now, and everything is blocked. Okay, so there's no mixture of saliva mixing and then having aerosol. So with COVID era, so anyways, if those who are not getting into the rubber dam, they should think and get into it immediately. I think I will stick to no rubber dam, no endodontics.
Okay, fine, good. Well, I think from this platform, it was very important coming from you that we made that clear. Moving on, he says that, can I use 3% sodium hypochlorite in a single sitting RCT procedure?
You mean to say 3%?
Yes.
Yes, you can use 3% or 5%, 5.25%. What is the difference? The antibacterial properties are the same. Okay, tissue dissolving properties will change. Higher the concentration, faster is going to be the dissolution. So it is basically, if you use it at 3%, dissolution is going to be slower. Now, where does the 3% and the 5% concept comes? It basically comes when you're not using rubber dam. But just those who are not using rubber dam, 5.25% is pretty strong, and a slight of spillage of sodium hypochlorite on the tissues around, on gingiva, on the mucosa, leads to chemical burns. Okay, what is that? It is nothing but a proof that this sodium hypochlorite is capable of dissolving the soft tissues. Okay, ideally it was supposed to dissolve the pulp tissue inside, but it started dissolving the mucosa outside. Okay, so that's why people started diluting and using sodium hypochlorite at 3%. If you're using rubber dam, go for a higher concentration. Who stops you?
Okay. Now we move on, and there's a question which says that, can you share any tricks of achieving an excellent secure apical seal?
We all imagine that apex is one single round foramen, but which is not the case. And nor we can actually do histological study for each and every case where we can go and see how the apex is exactly. Okay, we just have a two-dimensional X-ray, and which will never tell me how the apex is actually in third dimension, right? So all we have to imagine and then go ahead and work on it. Okay, apex locator plays a very, very important role over here. Apex locator does tell me where am I supposed to stop. And believe me, friends, if I will see a radiograph, but if my apex locator tells me to stop, say 1.5 or 1 millimeter short of the radiological apex, I will trust my apex locator and then proceed. So I use iRoot. I've been using the same apex locator for last 15, 16 years now. Extremely durable, meaning if you're looking for a gadget which will last you for a decade or two, then this is the one. Okay. Otherwise, there are cheaper machines available in the market. So using a good apex locator is the key to know where the apex is, and then we follow working length, master cone X-ray, and go ahead and object. Now here comes the key, especially when you are using such liquid sealers. Okay, if you give little bit too much of pressure, there will be this kind of sealers can extrude outside. So controlling that can be a key. That's the only thing. Baki, achieving apical seal is not a very difficult thing nowadays. I can see Dr. Santosh Ravindran, and he is another master of endodontics, and he is actually jack and master of all the trades. So, sir, आपके सामने बात कर रहा हूँ, कुछ गलती हो जाए तो संभाल लेना.
बहुत मजा आ रहा है. In fact, I would like you to elaborate. You mentioned about bioceramic sealers, yes, which is the thing now, but there are a lot of people who are still continuing with zinc oxide and calcium hydroxide. So can you just throw light as to why the bioceramic is the best sealer as of today?
Yeah. So Grossman gave us those properties of ideal sealer. The sealer should not shrink. Sealer should not increase in size. Okay, there should not be any expansion, and it should not discolor the tooth, and it should give us a perfect hermetic seal. All those things which we read, we heard, those are now getting fulfilled with bioceramic sealers. So we have Biodentine is another, Bioroot RCS, which is derived from Biodentine. Bioroot RCS is another excellent bioceramic sealer. Then we have Ceraseal, which is another bioceramic sealer. All these sealers are actually so inert. They do not expand. They do not contract. Okay, they give a perfect fluid tight seal. Okay, and that is what we all want to achieve. And believe me, even if they are pushed beyond apex, they are most of the cases, they are painless. Meaning patient usually does not complain of any major pain or any issue. Okay, so the operation is quick, reliable. When we say single cone technique, don't take it in the single cone technique what we used to use in the past. Either it comes with a difference. We want to have a soft core of GP point inside. That's why we put GP. We do not require the lateral condensation over here. Okay, and we hot modified technique. We just get a nice the hermetic seal at the orifice. Okay, that is the coronal seal which we achieve, and that's more than enough for us. That is how. Now another important thing, which usually is not given with the sealers, is with these kind of sealers, because they are water based, they're very easy to remove from the pulp chamber. So whatever excess sealer is there in the pulp chamber can easily be removed, washed off when we are doing post endodontic restoration, which is usually a difficult thing when we are using zinc oxide eugenol based sealers or the epoxy or resin based sealers.
Okay.
Santosh sir, you want to add something to this?
We have two more questions. Sorry, Santosh, you want to add something to that?
Ajay, just one more question with regards to that.
Yeah.
I had some article also is that bioceramics stimulate the formation of odontoblasts.
Yes.
So does it mean that the periapical lesion can get healed if you actually extrude the bioceramic sealer beyond the foramen?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And there are studies which say that it leads to, it is osteo conductive, and it also leads to formation of odontoblasts. Okay, it is extremely inert. In fact, Santosh sir, you must have experienced. We are all. There is no clear statement in the journals as of now in articles, but we all know that if there is a periapical lesion and if we have used bioceramic sealer, the periapical lesion healing is faster. If that lesion would have taken say 6 months or say 1 year to heal completely, that will heal in say 6-8 months. We have seen this. Okay, although there is no official statement about it, but we all have evidence-based dentistry. We all have experienced this. So there is something which is right about them. Body really loves it, likes it. It doesn't find it as a foreign body. That one, there is no inflammatory reaction around it, and it heals beautifully. In fact, it creates those friendly cells, that is osteoblasts and odontoblasts.
Okay, two more questions before we let you go, Ajay. One of it is, you mentioned about endo-ultra activation. The question is, can you just go through those simple steps and the chemicals to be used in the activation?
Okay, so you want me to open my presentation again?
No. Just put it in a flow.
So see, idea is to empty canal from all the organic and inorganic materials. Okay, so what are organic materials in the canal? Basically the pulp tissue, vital, non-vital, whatever it is. Okay, and inorganic material in the canal is the dentinal chips, debris, whatever we had inside. Okay, so we need to clean and clear the canals of organic and inorganic materials both. Now, whatever rotary system you use in the world does not touch more than 65% of the walls, because as you saw, the canal, all three canals in our case were non-circular. If the canal is non-circular, if my file which is rotating inside is circular, okay, what is going to happen? It is not going to reach everywhere. There can be lateral canals, there can be fins, there can be, now suppose that MB1 and MB2 were separate, there could be connections in between. Okay, is there any rotary instrument or the file which can go enter and clear them? No, we need to clean and clear. Just simple irrigation with sodium hypochlorite, and I'm just simply waiting that it will act. No, we need to activate the solution. When simple examples, when I take a bath, do I just put liquid soap and sit and then put water? No, I rub the soap, I activate it. When a milk bottle has to be cleaned, do you just put some soap water and that's it? No, we put a brush and we move it inside. Likewise, we need to activate. So what do we use for activation? This debate of whether to use sonic or ultrasonic will go on. Whether to use metal tips or non-metal tips plastic tips will go on. I will prefer to use ultrasonic device, okay, with an ultra flexible tip which goes inside even into the canals and activate the solution as you saw, and it gives me crystal clear canals. Okay, now sodium hypochlorite when heated shows better efficiency, dissolution of the pulp is faster. Now it takes good 25-30 minutes for us to dissolve all the pulp tissue. Okay, if you could remove it in toto, it will be faster. Now my rotary instrumentation is pretty fast. I'm through with my rotary instrumentation in most of the cases in 5 minutes. Do I have enough time for this thing to happen, for the pulp to dissolve? No. So what can I do? Either I keep irrigating for 30 minutes, keeping his mouth open for 30 minutes, which is not a good, patients don't like to do that. Or I will go heat the sodium hypochlorite there inside. Now, some of them use it in coffee mug and then heat it and bring it. Okay. While you bring it, the temperature drops down in the syringe. Then it drops down into the metal cannula of the needle. And when you put it inside the tooth gives its temperature to the solution and temperature drops down to 37 degrees, that is body temperature, in no time, in few seconds. So that sodium hypochlorite is not really heated. So I actually will go inside and heat the sodium hypochlorite first. Once it is heated, this heated sodium hypochlorite, I'm going to activate. I'm going to create a turbulence inside so that I dissolve tissue really, really fast. Okay. And this is how I'm going to do 3 times. Usually that is, some of them ask you to do 4 or 5 times. That's absolutely fine. If you want to do it more number of times, for me, 3 times is good enough. After that, I'm going to remove inorganic material. And that is going to be with liquid EDTA. I'm going to put liquid EDTA in all the canals. And I will again activate liquid EDTA with my Endo Ultra and clear it. Simple.
It really was simple. And I'm sure it's simple for you. And hopefully it will be simple for us. One final question, and that, after everything is done properly, the obturation is done perfectly as per our judgment, and the patient gets pain, and we know that it happens. So just in 1, 2, 3 steps, how would you manage this?
Okay. So first thing first, okay. Never tell the patient that you will never have pain. There can always be post-op pain. Okay, so imagine these 4 fingers are rotten and doctor had to amputate them. Okay, so there are going to be wounds over there. There are going to be 4 wounds over there. And if something hits over there, there's going to be pain, or there can be pain otherwise also. There is going to be some healing time. Likewise, there was a main nerve going, which gave 4 branches inside this particular tooth. I have cut them, severed them. Okay, I've done pulpectomy. So there are 4 pinpoint wounds over there, 2 or 4, whatever pinpoint wounds over there. And whenever I chew on that side, my pointed root apices are going to hit on those wounds. Isn't that right? While doing instrumentation, I've used foreign materials. I have damaged, I've touched the PDL. Okay, I'm heating something inside the canal. Okay, that heat is transferred to PDL. That temperature change is also detrimental to PDL. That also shows some inflammatory reaction. I like to give ligamentory injections to control the pain. That also leads to inflammation in PDL. If PDL is inflamed, there is going to be pain. If bone is inflamed, there is going to be pain. Okay. Sometimes body doesn't take this material, the foreign body materials which we are using well always. There can be foreign body reaction. So I always will tell my patient, look, there can be some pain. Okay, so we have just done the procedure, so there can be some procedural pain. Just avoid eating on that side for next few days. I will support it with NSAIDs, painkillers. Okay, if there is extrusion of the sealer, a lot of extrusion of the sealer beyond apex, especially non-bioceramic ones, and if the patient complains of pain, I may, to avoid allergic reactions, I may put the patient on Avil or cetirizine or something like that, if required. That is like, it happens only once in a while. Okay, and antibiotic is something for just pain. Antibiotic, no. If I have followed this ground down technique protocol well, I have not pushed any debris beyond apex, I do not have to worry. Antibiotics are not compulsory in each and every.
The reason I'm interrupting is you stop at antibiotics because the next interesting lecture by Santosh Ravindran is on antibiotics. So that's the reason I interrupt. Thank you so much, Ajay. This has been wonderful. And what you taught us today is that if you finish your allotted time ahead of time, there's so much that you can answer and share because of your experience, expertise, and knowledge. You were wonderful. Thank you so much, Ajay, once again.
Thank you so much. You are always encouraged. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And all the best, Santosh sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay.